I genuinely can't believe how much this cat has been a part of today's broadcast.
Yeah, I don't know. She seems to be desperate to assert some territory.
Mm-hmm. She's literally now sleeping on the switchboard. So, sorry if the cuts are weird. Hello and welcome to Expected Own Goals, Olivia Moultrie and Raylan Turner Wave Goodbye to San Diego edition. I am your host, Eric Morgan.
And I'm Evan Davis. We have to talk about what was probably the least fun game in a way.
Certainly for the first 70 minutes.
Yeah, Portland's 1-0 extra time defeat of the San Diego Wave in front of 19,000 fans at Providence Park.
Both a disappointing total for Portland and also the highest total of the weekend.
They just have very high standards out there, as you well know.
Sure do. That said, the atmosphere was very playoff gamey. The game that we ended up watching was also playoff gamey, but in the bad ways we've talked about, where both teams were very risk averse.
But I think this is actually the game where we really expected it. I mean, I think Orlando...
Absolutely.
Orlando-Seattle, we knew was likely going to turn out the way that it did. But at the very least, the talent deficit that Seattle was dealing with is clearer, where I don't think anybody was surprised. You don't even need to look at the fancy schmancy projection models to think Portland and San Diego are very, very closely matched in talent. And this was potentially going to be, the battle of the sum, just getting stuck in the trenches. And yes, for long stretches, that was exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is a huge contributing factor in the way this game played out is while you might have expected Portland to come out on the front foot at home, just look at the front line that they rolled out. They rolled out with Alexis Spanstra and Dana Castellanos. This is not the ideal roster that they have. Pietra Torden ended up sitting on the bench. Portland I don't even think they fielded a full bench for this game.
I mean, they might not. I'm looking at all of the players who were out for them. I mean, several SEIs we knew were going to be there coming in, but Mimi Alidu was on an excused absence. Obviously, Eme Vignola and Valérine Laboa got injured leading up to decision day. I do have an own goal to own that Pietra Torden missed decision day because of a knock and was a last-minute addition to the injury report. However, she, at least if you believe the availability report, was healthy. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's Gail just being cautious and wanting to and work her in. But when it's just the Raylan Turner show up front, that's a lot of pressure to put on her and Olivia Moultrie to carry the attack forward. At the very least, Torden would be a third option, a third weapon to try and move the ball in and around the box.
And yet, early on, Olivia Moultrie almost breaks the game open on a really nice sequence that probably would have taken what was an attritional game and changed the course of it, a la Haley McCutcheon's goal against Seattle.
Right.
Goals change games, and the lack of a goal there didn't change this game and instead allowed both of these teams to sort of play within themselves in a style. Portland felt, I think, right from the jump, very comfortable allowing San Diego long stretches of possession and just sort of assuming that, as has been true all season, they wouldn't do a ton with that possession.
Well, you talked about in our Washington-Louisville episode that there's just a tacit agreement on tactics.
Yes.
Which you don't even need to say it was a tacit agreement. It's just inevitable, when one team plays a certain way and another team plays the other way, the way that they decide can beat the other is just a natural progression. And and Portland, the second fewest number of games where they had a possession edge all season. And then you're going up against the San Diego Wave, who won the possession battle in all of their games all season, except for one.
Yeah. I would describe this as there are different approaches to going into a playoff matchup. One is to alter how we normally play because we think that we will gain an advantage against an opponent who will not be prepared to deal with what we throw at them.
Yeah.
A sort of, a proactive approach to taking down your opponent. And then there is just the alternative approach, which is here's who we are as a team. We're going to play as we are as a team, and we're going to let the other team come at us with whatever they got. And that is what both San Diego and Portland, for different reasons, came into this game with as an attitude.
And it becomes, and it sometimes looks weird because suddenly you see the higher seed playing at home in front of a very large and loud and rabid fan base, playing like the road team or playing like the team at the talent deficit, because parity is what it is. And they kind of were maybe at a talent deficit a little bit, although maybe
It's
that's
a real
debatable.
coin flip, but
it's a
it's
real coin
close.
flip. Yeah. And so they just decided, like, no, we're going to play our way and just dial it up to 11. Like, you want to just put 4 bodies right in the center of the park and gum up the works? Yeah, we'll do that.
Also, I think it's fair to say, and this is not to poo-poo Portland or San Diego, but by the time this game rolled around, Orlando, Washington, Gotham, whoever was going to emerge from this game was going to be the weakest team remaining in the playoffs.
And you knew that you were going to be going on the road to Washington if you advanced.
The hardest game remaining for a team to draw.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, we might see another version of this at Audi Field at the weekend from Portland. But yeah, they were just very content to maybe snatch a moment of magic. And if that didn't materialize, whatever. I mean, like it's so funny to look at the passing network and you just see these massive, massive circles of pass volume from San Diego, which duh, of course. And then you see Portland where Olivia Moultrie, Dana Castellanos, Jesse Fleming, and Sam Coffey are all basically on top of each other in their own half, right in the center of the park, to ensure that Delphine Cascarino can't do what Delphine Cascarino does.
Totally.
Or Dudinha, for that matter.
Yeah,
who also almost broke this game open at one point.
Yeah, by the way, I think that Portland's approach to both of them was either usher them out of danger or to be quite physical with them.
Yeah.
And both approaches seem to get under the skin of Cascarino and Dudinha.
Yeah, very quickly. And so San Diego just kind of looks like they did when they weren't scoring goals that they probably didn't deserve, which is just a lot of very sterile and anemic possession that Portland seemed to be willing to wait out.
Yeah.
It was not fun to watch.
No, and ultimately, even when San Diego clipped the bar in regulation, they are taking pot shots from distance and sort of accepting that Portland is happy to concede 24-yard shots, even if they are dangerous, in lieu of allowing San Diego inside their own box.
And when
it was actually a solid enough performance defensively from a team that has been kind of featherweight at times in defense.
Yeah, and if you want to be charitable, this is the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. And when you peel under the hood,
struggle, yeah.
Yeah, suffer struggle is the honest answer. Suffer ball versus struggle ball. But you adjust all of the underlying stats to a per 96-minute game level, and they really did just play each other bang even.
Yeah, I believe it's a Kennedy Wesley shot that clips the top of the bar. You have a Raylan Turner attempted bicycle kick that, boy, would have been a highlight, but also just flies right to Sheridan. And the game is ultimately decided by Olivia Moultrie being the player that she has been all season. For a player who has not been great as a winger for long stretches, or maybe isn't the best as a winger, creates a lot of space by drifting out wide, then beating her defender and playing in a sublime cross to Raylan Turner, with there being nothing San Diego has that will work defensively against that.
As is often said of really, really technical, attack-minded midfield players, it's just a matter about which direction you want them to be dynamic toward. And when Olivia Moultrie is moving in to out, that's very effective. It's the out to in part that doesn't quite click. Similarly, when Mesut Ozil got to Arsenal, you shouldn't start him on the wing. You should start him in the middle. And Arsene Wenger didn't always think about that way. Moultrie, I think Rob Gale has finally decided, does just need to be the team's 10. And it works really effectively. Especially also Dana Castellanos, who's not a natural number 9, isn't even that good a player. You can also use her both as a defensive tool and also a way to suck a center back out for one of your wingers, especially turn her to Phil, because Castellanos always wants to move deep anyway. That's where she lives a little bit more comfortably. So for all the shit that we give Rob Gale sometimes about the tactics, this was kind of the way that you should play the San Diego Wave. And again, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't fun. A couple of times it almost didn't work. But also, you almost made it work in the other direction.
I think for Idaval and San Diego, this game was going to be a coin flip, and you lost this particular coin flip. Once down a goal, I think that's where the criticism can really come in. But you're already in extra time. You're on the road.
Yeah.
And San Diego just sort of struggled to make a meaningful, great chance after the Turner goal.
Yeah, and also like Ascanio was off the field. Gia Corley got hurt and had to be taken off.
Yeah,
you know, like you were starting to thin out your ranks, and then some of your substitutions in extra times. Like, I love that you want to give Quincy McMahon like her second or third professional appearance in this context after you're down a goal. It's very touching, and it had some great moment of magic occurred to put Trinity Byers out there after a year of ACL recovery for her first professional minutes. But these players are coming on in a moment where you are chasing a goal in the most important game of your season, and Trinity Byers has not played a single second of professional football before. I guess if you really think those are your best options off the bench, but like if you're chasing a goal, like why isn't Kara Caruso on the field? You know, like you brought out Mackenzie Roby, but she was the last possible option, and you took Ken Cascarino off, so it's essentially like for like. Like this just didn't feel like he got his substitutions correct. And Gale probably wasn't the smartest move to leave half of his subs unused and on the bench, but at the very least, you brought in Pietra Torden before regulation ended. And that is a great tool to try and finish this game out in regulation time.
Yeah, Trinity Armstrong does end up taking a chance in the second half of extra time. It's the one chance San Diego creates after going down a goal. That said, Pietra Torden, once she was on, looked like the most threatening player on the field to score, and that is not what you want if you are San Diego chasing a goal in the game.
No, not at all. And I just really hope that this is still a fitness thing, that she's being slow rolled back, because if Portland, and we'll get into this more deep in depth in our semifinal preview, but if Portland's going to have any kind of a sniff of a chance to take Washington down, like I think Pietra Torden and Raylan Turner have to be in the 11.
Yeah, together.
Yeah, exactly.
And Torden low-key has been one of the best in limited minutes attackers in this league this year.
Yeah, but for those minutes thresholds, like she's probably our rookie of the year favorite.
Yeah,
you know?
She has been kind of the things that people say about Riley Tiernan are actually true of Pietra Torden this year. And you saw that in the chance she creates in extra time, beating two San Diego defenders and dribbling into a place she maybe should have laid the ball off to Raylan Turner.
Yeah.
But like, she's just a pure striker.
Yeah. When unstoppable force meets immovable object, and one coach like essentially blanks, which is I think what Jonas Scheideval did with some of his substitution choices. And like I know he was screaming, like there were a couple of calls that.
Oh, by the way, this game could have turned on a handball that I think probably should have been called in regulation against Portland.
Yeah, exactly. And Jonas Scheideval was none too pleased about it, and maybe he shouldn't have been pleased about it. That I'm sure you feel, if you're a San Diego Wave fan, I'm sure that feels very, very frustrating.
Yeah,
but it's not as though you played in aggregate better than your opponent.
That's right. San Diego didn't play better than Portland in this game, but if a call that gets video reviewed goes your direction, you would have been in the catbird seat with very few minutes remaining to win this game in regulation.
Yeah.
And like, again, that's where, and we've talked about it a lot, the randomness and chaos of playoffs just sort of set in. In a 7-game series, which would never happen.
It would take 2 months.
It would take 2 months. In a 7-game series between these two teams, I suspect it goes 6 or 7. These teams are incredibly close. I still think neither of these teams were, and particularly with the remaining field, are like, would have been credible threats to win. You know?
Right. And ultimately it would have become sort of a Pyrrhic victory.
Yeah.
And that is, you know,
it kind of already is a Pyrrhic victory because you have to fly cross country to Washington after much on your legs.
No. It is a Pyrrhic victory for Portland. It would have been a Pyrrhic victory
Yeah.
for San Diego had they won it. But yeah, I mean, I think like
They have a 9 a.m. kickoff Pacific on Saturday.
It'd be interesting to see if they fly into Washington a couple of days early to try and get themselves acclimated. But San Diego, I think, for all of the strides that they made this year, hopefully Camille Ashton and Jonas Scheideval can like sit down and have some honest and frank conversations with each other about like where there is still need to try and bolster this roster, because the great tactical master stroke of moving Savannah McCaskill for deeper on the field, you didn't get a lot of benefit from that because she got hurt and Lorena Fazer had to come in, who was fine, but like
who had a totally serviceable game.
Maybe has a lot of potential. And similarly with Dudinia, who like really flew out of the traps in her essentially cup of coffee in the NWSL. you got to hope that that is sustainable, and you got to think about like what your number 9 plan is, because you stop trusting Adriana Leon, but also Kimi Ascanio is still kind of like, it's all upside right now. We don't know if she can play 2,600 minutes at this level. You got to start thinking about like what you want to do with Gia Corley and how to harness her powers correctly so that she is consistently great and not just great for a couple of months where you're overperforming your record. Yeah, I think San Diego is probably not going anywhere in the long term, but there's a lot of work to do in the offseason.
Yeah, I think for San Diego, the high level thought I have is this was a bad situation a year ago. The club was in a weird, fluxy transition. You kind of didn't know. The roster was not particularly convincing coming into this season. You have hit a number of times on bets that you have made.
And your 3 primary executive components, your new owner, your new GM, and your new head coach, now all have a full year under their belts. Mm-hmm. So they should hopefully feel like they got their feet underneath them. And now maybe you can start implementing some more long-term strategic thinking.
Yeah, moreover, I think they've done a good job of identifying young talent and bringing that talent along. I think Dudinha might be the biggest hit out of this crowd, but there are a lot of... This is a...
Armstrong?
Yeah, Trinity Armstrong might be the biggest hit. Who knows? That you have choices. That's great.
And we still... I mean, like, I'm just talking about the number 9 problem. Like, maybe Trinity Byers is the answer. And we're just about to find out what that means. And same thing with Quincy McMahon, how she fits in at fullback. Like, there is a lot of excitement, I think, that San Diego fans can hold on to, but we just have to ensure that like the brain trust like fixes some of the places where like they just look like part of the good but mushy middle. Now they probably want to be distinctly part of the top 4.
Yeah, Hannah Lundqvist is another really bright spot. You actually have a lot of talent there. Now the question is, can San Diego go and find 2, maybe 3 pieces on the open market that like elevate this team from a team that played a beleaguered Portland Thorns level in a playoff game to a team that, you know, is more dominant, looks a lot more like, you know, one of the actual upper crust of this league, because you've built a really solid base.
And as for Portland, we'll be talking about them in depth in our semifinal preview, where they will have to travel to DC to play the Spirit this weekend. Good luck to them for that.
Yeah, that said, like, how is Portland still alive? Like,
because everybody around them isn't really that much better than them.
Yeah,
that's the answer.
That's definitely a big part of it. But also, they have just been bizarrely next one up, and they have ridden it so far. This team has, when you think about what this roster was a year ago and where they are now, it's stunning.
I think we should also acknowledge that, like, fortune's been on their side. You know, 8th place by XG differential, yet they finished the season in 3rd.
No question.
This playoff game, where anybody but San Diego could have gone really sideways when you were relying on a lot of playing time from Dana Castellanos and Alexis Spanstra, and Pietra Torton was not available from minute 1, potentially. Like, your midfield is probably like the strongest get-her-done midfield in the league. But Mackenzie Arnold still has her issues. The back line still has its issues. And the forward line kind of doesn't feel all that complete at the moment. So when you are up against a team that actually knows how to like cut you open, which San Diego was never going to do, especially if you just kept Cascarino at bay, it's going to be a different story. And so you got to play Houston on the last day of the season. You got to play San Diego at home in the quarterfinals, but I mean, I feel like
the test just got a lot bigger.
Yeah, your race is most likely run, and if you beat Washington, that will be another massive, massive upset, akin to Gotham beating Kansas City.
Portland, you've been crushing the quizzes. When the test comes, that's going to be a different level of difficulty.
Yeah, and so we will really try and get granular on that in our semifinal preview at the end of the week. Hope you've been enjoying all of these quarterfinal recaps this week. Click the show notes, the link to our Patreon page where you can listen to the main feed ad-free, both in video and audio versions, as well as 4 bonus episodes a month and a lot of other cool goodies besides. So we will be back with you to preview Orlando, Gotham, and Washington, Portland, and then we'll be off and flying for the semifinals.
Yeah. It's a busy time here at XOG.
And if you are a Patreon member, we got a very fun episode, playoff related, but in terms of a very specific area of the playoffs that I think is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, friend of the pod coming back.
Yep. Feel like we're going to make this an annual tradition.
I hope so.
So
I love talking to her.
We will talk to you then. Bye.